Hello, Zachary back with you. Welcome to Practically Social. Today I'm discussing recovery from dating burnout. First, I'll say if you're watching this video, it's important also to watch my other videos on dating, love, and commitment. That will give you an idea of where I'm coming from as far as a philosophy on dating and modern relationships. If you're experiencing burnout, especially from online dating, you're not alone. My last video talked about potential causes for burnout, including sampling, dabbling, and greengrassing. I've had years of anecdotal and client experiences to draw from, as well as the magnitude of articles and research that are being done related to the lack of connection, anxiety, depression, social implications, and meaning for everyone on these topics. I've also fallen into the trap previously that having a loving romantic relationship in my life or a partner was a necessity for true happiness. That's not easy for me to say. Sometimes I still struggle with that ever being a possibility, so if that's a struggle for you, I hope this video is helpful. Now let's say you've watched my videos Human Vending Machines Parts 1 and 2, Commitment is Dead, and Love the Endangered Feeling Parts 1 through 3. You've watched my Dating Burnout video. I feel compelled, after describing a lot of what I think is the problem causing all the heartache, to offer some clinically and personally based tools to help recover from it. Let's dive in. Have you been having a hard time finding someone who loves you or going through multiple breakups? Do you avoid the prospect of dating altogether, or have you considered alternatives such as E&M or polyamory because of difficulty trying to have a relationship with a single person? Maybe you think you'll be single forever, and that is hard enough to deal with. Today, we're discussing some coping strategies for all of that. These coping strategies are universal and common to most mental health and substance use treatments. There may be even some repetition here from videos that I've done on those topics. However, it's important to integrate some of the habits into your lifestyle as you navigate through situations, memories, thoughts, and feelings around your endeavor to find that companion you want to keep in your life. Let's start with a sad fact. A lot of people these days are looking for something convenient, superficial, and temporary. That's not anything we can change. There's a variety of reasons for this, yet one of the main reasons I believe this is because of the social climate, technology, and even sadder, that many people are damaged and simply could benefit from working on themselves, which could very well resolve the problems of being with different people all the time. So people distract, they compartmentalize, they're numbing, or they're getting sucked in by the endless entertainment offered today that has trivialized and desensitized us to so many serious things in life. Loneliness is a global pandemic. So what do we do about it? Start here. In therapy, I try to help everyone understand 6 key things about themselves. I think they're helpful for so many concerns we all have, and specifically for relationships. Here's my questions for you. Number 1, who am I? Number 2, why am I this way? 3, how have I been coping with all of this so far? Number 4, since I've been this way so far, what do I do with all this information? 5, where do I go from here? And 6, how do I get there? So in this video, work that out as one tool, then we'll talk about 2 others. First question and what it opens up for us. In order to understand why we are the way we are, we need to look at the past. Who were our relationship models? What were our parents like and the way they raised us? They were our first and foremost teachers, and they are in many ways the model for how we think. Most of us are trying to either replicate or resolve relationships that our parents modeled for us, from parenting to love and everywhere in between. We often find our relationships can be representative of what we learned, what we want, and how we end up in situations which are painful. That's the who I am and the why. From birth to about age 7, we're little sponges, and we have no executive functioning developed to analyze that programming or teaching. We start to repeat what we've seen and heard. Monkey see, Monkey do. Interestingly enough, that continues through our teenage years as we seek to belong with our peers and form our identity. Patterns can form along the way as we transverse into adulthood. They may become deeply habitual without us ever realizing it. So, who are you and why are you? What was modeled for you? Are you repeating it or trying to resolve it in your relationships? Do you seek people who aren't ready, are toxic, or whom you end up not feeling the same way about after a hot and fiery start, only to have it crash and burn again? Look at your past. Next question. How have you been coping with all of that? Do you use substances, work too much, avoid people, or find yourself going from person to person to try to fill a hole that is never filled? Think about how you've been coping with all the aspects of your life, and specifically how you are in relationships. Do you use relationships to cope? Maybe you're in a new era of your life and you're growing, replacing old unhealthy habits with healthy ones, and this video is part of that. You're in the right place. You've got some ideas now, right? Good. Let's move on. What do you do with all this information? Journal? Talk about it in therapy? Tell your friends? Simply processing all of it can be a phenomenal beginning. Writing it all down is something I highly recommend because I see it relieve so many people. They may cry, get angry, feel completely alone, and hate that process, but it does bring them relief. It's a huge step. That leads us to, what do I do with all this information? It puts us in a position to see all of it with an objective lens. It's cathartic and frees our brain with a cleaner space to make decisions. Next we have, where do I want to go? Which you might very well already know because you tuned into this video. I know where to go. I've even figured out how to get there, but I can't force any of that to happen. So let's consider what influences the answers to these questions with one critical piece. Try saying it to yourself with me now. I have to realize I'm the only person that can create the right conditions for me and to accept whatever happens, no matter what. That's a technique that DBT uses called radical acceptance to help us cope with distress. Loneliness is distress. So how do we cope? We radically welcome it as an opportunity to make ourselves less lonely. Loneliness has been the single greatest teacher in my life, and I've been seeking connection everywhere in the world since I was a small child. We need acceptance, validation, and love. We need nurturing. If you're not finding it, give it to yourself first. That is also a learning process, and it's not easy. I've cultivated it most by doing things that I enjoy all by myself, by walking in that discomfort, by accepting that who I am as I am is loving myself, even if no one else does. What we're looking at overall is building self-esteem when we don't see evidence externally that we're worth loving by others. There's a lot to explore here up to this point. We can't cover it all in one video, though I trust you see where we're going. The next important piece to consider is, how do I get where I want to go? Well, I've already mentioned how I started and how a lot of others are beginning to determine whether or not they need a relationship with someone else that is solid. Relationships can be an external solution for an internal concern. Focus on an internal solution and build a relationship with yourself if you choose to heal. Others can help us heal, but nothing beats self-healing. If you want to go somewhere healthy, it's important to know what healthy is from the inside out. It's healthy to love ourselves. Lastly, a couple more tools for coping. Meditation and perspective taking. Meditation is one of the most overlooked and underused tools for recovery I've ever seen. Though research points to its effectiveness for a range of problems, most people I encounter really struggle with putting it into practice. It's been tough for me in the past, yet also very rewarding. Practicing it regularly gives me an isolation chamber for my thoughts, which some find very scary. In my meditation, I let thoughts come and go. I don't fight them. I just focus on continuing to control my breathing. Controlling the thoughts isn't the goal. Responding to them differently is. No matter how busy our mind is, focusing on breathing allows us to face thoughts that bother us or come up randomly without being distracted by anything else. We have to face what we fear, what angers us, and what bombards us. Meditation is a powerful vehicle to take us to the other side of these emotions. We get to find out why our brain continues to ruminate in those thoughts, and they become less controlling in our lives when we experience them in isolation without judging ourselves or situations. That's why I recommend meditation. It can be healing, and it can also be used for filtering through all of those important therapy questions we started the video with. It's also a powerful visualization tool for answering, where do I want to go and how do I get there? Lastly, let's talk about perspective taking as another tool. I've done a video on this to introduce the concept if you've never used it, and I've also done a video on meditation. Look for those in my playlist once you've finished watching this one. So, the next tool, perspective taking, is a great tool because we often shame and blame ourselves for not being loved. We think there's something wrong with us personally, when in fact people have all kinds of reasons they're not with us, driven by a sense of self which has nothing to do with us. Perhaps they're struggling with the same issues, and that's how we met them. Yet they couldn't work it out in their mind and moved on. Maybe we were used, hurt, or abandoned. Taking perspective just means not assigning that blame to either party. It could just be them. Perhaps once we were together, they saw a side of themselves that made them uncomfortable, and they weren't willing to work through it with us, to work through it on their own, or to grow with us instead of without us. It's a painful place, rejection. Yet perspective offers us the ability to look at what happened from multiple angles, to accept responsibility for things we want to change for ourselves, and the way we approach relationships in the future. Most importantly, it helps us to continue to have that loving relationship with ourselves and to look inward to value and appreciate all of our good qualities. In conclusion, if you're struggling with dating burnout, struggling with yourself, or feeling alone and lost, start with some of these steps. I'm not going to guarantee you that I have a 30-day system to make it all right, though I will guarantee you that inner self-work is the most rewarding work. No matter how hard it is, you can love yourself for doing the hard work every time you do. I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions. Thanks again to all my subscribers, and if you're new, my channel can't grow without you. So please hit the little submarine down there or go to the subscribe button at the bottom of the video. We're super close to 100 subscribers, and when we hit that, I'm gonna roll out something big. Check the end of my playlist for positive and uplifting music I'm listening to lately, and I look forward to seeing you next time for the color of personality and the shape of things to come here on Practically Social.